My name is Yonsei from SM Entertainment MBN Division. Would you play the video clip? This video clip that you just saw, well, SM Entertainment realized the importance of the metaverse, so we wanted to express through this video clip that we are also going to prepare for the metaverse era. So we have been giving a lot of thought about how to prepare for the metaverse. And first thing that we thought about is what kind of metaverse that SM is going to show. And as you can see, the SM Metaverse is global industrialization of K-culture. So SM is a first mover of K-culture, and we globalized the K-culture. And now through the Metaverse, we want to industrialize these K-pop globally, and IP contents, and we think that the Web3 world where everyone can recreate has been ushered. And as I've told you, we have the events and the IT and the contents, and we can use this, leverage this to develop new economic logic. So I think there are three important things in Metaverse. First is the character. There has to be a character. And second, there has to be a story. And third, there has to be an economy within the Metaverse. And based on this, in this theory of the economy, there has to be a special activities for the users to monetize. And there has to be a new world that is created based on these economic activities. As I've told you, then what should the metaverse show? The physical metaverse in reality and the virtual metaverse has to coexist. And within this space, the users has to freely enjoy themselves and freely create, so to create their economic theory on their own. Then, how is SM Entertainment preparing for the metaverse? And what kind of service is SM Entertainment planning? So we have made a new theory called Play to Crush, and this combines the music and dance. So we have this strong weapon. So based on these strong weapons, we have made a philosophy called Play to Play. So we are making a new content, and in order to drive this to a new theory, it has to be easily created. It have to make sure that it can be easily erased. So the music that we create, the users can easily create the music, and it can be recombined. So regardless of age, in our SM Entertainment, they can use the service that are provided from the SM Entertainment, so the music and the dance can be easily created. So we will be launching this kind of service. And we have also developed a new economic theory called Kalman. This is a hybrid video like M, motion graphic, and the avatars A, and novel N. So we call it Kalman, the cartoon animation, webtoon, motion graphic, avatar, and novel. So I will show you a short video clip that explains this concept.
세계적으로 기술로 아이들이 사라지고 있습니다. 아이들과 싱크가 끊기는 일명 싱크아웃 현상들로 인해
原因不明のシンクアウト現象により愛が消滅してしまうことです。
광야는 계속 변하는 장소라서 길을 잃기 쉬워. 이 나비가 너희들을 안내할 거야. 너희가 지켜야 할 광야의 규칙이 있어. 절대로 뒤를 돌아보지 말 것.
너는 누구야?
나?
So this video clip that you just saw is a Metaverse a teaser video. So when we create music video, we are not just playing the music and dance, but cartoon, animation, webtoon, motion capture. So all of this are compressed into one. So I think that this is a new worldview that Metaverse should have and a new technology that we should show. Then the last thing that we are considering is the condition. So if I explain to you the condition that we think is most important, well, SM has played a leading role in globalizing the K-pop, and we have disseminated the K-culture around the world. So in order to make this possible, I think we need help and support from other countries. So we need the policy or institutional support, and we need to have a standardization effort of the metaverse. So not just neighbor, but we have countries and other countries in this room. So unless we do the standardization work for the metaverse, I think there's a limitation for this industry to grow further. So I would like to cooperate with the overseas companies and experts, and we are actually in the discussion stage with the foreign companies and the experts to make metaverse more user-friendly and make it more convenient. Lastly, I would like to show you the SM origin video clip, which explains the SM's worldview. And if you have any other questions, please don't hesitate to ask me questions during our Q&A sessions, or you can ask me personally later.
In the beginning,
so
there
let
was
me show you the
Kwangya.
third video clip.
Beyond that was Cosmo. You have probably heard about such tales at least once. From an old book, or a movie, a song, through many creations being the result of our imagination about the universe. You may have come across the word Kwangya, or Cosmo, like us. Before we begin our story about the new universe, we want to first address certain questions and doubts. Is there anything more to our current knowledge about the universe? Can the birth of universe be explained only through science and religion? How come we compare the speed of light and sound to each other, but do not mention the 5 lights and goddess of sound? A world where travel to outer space with no passport or possessions, supernatural powers, and transcendental beings that are in communion with the gods appear one after another. If you have ever doubted this world at least once, the place you will experience from now on might present the answer. Since long ago, through dreams and subconsciousness, we have been sending messages about our solidarity. You should now remember everything you've been doubting about. It is time to recall the history that have taken place in our universe. In this space built on data and destiny, you, who is ready to travel, and us, ready to sing, will come together. The story we'll share starts from Kwangya, where it all began.
Thank you. So in our SM entertainment, well, our spirit is be kind, be humble, and be loved. So with this human spirit, we would like to ask for your support. So Metaverse world cannot be created on our own. So I'd like to ask the interest and support from all of you. That's the end of the presentation from SM Entertainment. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. I'm very happy to be here. My name is Susan Crawford. I'm a professor at Harvard Law School. I wish I could be with you in Seoul. I've been lucky to travel to Seoul a few times in the past, and I very much enjoyed the view into the world's future that those visits gave me. This morning, I'm speaking to you from Washington, D.C., where internet access is much more expensive and not nearly as reliable or high capacity as it is in Korea. I have spent much of my career writing and working on internet access in America. From my perspective, the advent of the internet, and in particular, the simplicity of the internet protocol that made it easy for any computer to transmit internet packets, was the great development for humans in my lifetime. The idea of the open, non-proprietary, non-discriminatory, simple internet protocol is the biggest idea of my lifetime. You've invited me here to talk briefly about the vision of the metaverse, and that is what I'm going to do. Here is a definition of the metaverse from Matthew Ball. You're all familiar with these concepts. The key elements of this vision for human life that I want to emphasize for you, that the minister also emphasized, are just two. First, the idea of presence, true human presence at any distance. And second, the idea of persistence, persistence of experience, of history, of identity. The vision of the metaverse, the very best metaverse, the ideal metaverse, makes possible what humans desire more than anything in the world. Humans want, more than anything else, to be in the presence of other humans. Full bandwidth communication, company, friendship, intimacy, trust. We can find these things in our short lives only in our time with other people. Presence, fully synchronous presence, is crucial. And we should look for and support implementations of the metaverse that bring this vision into reality. That second key element, persistence, is also crucial. But look carefully at this definition. Persistence presents a major challenge to the governments of the world. If the metaverse is a network of virtual worlds, as this definition states, what persists across those different worlds? If each world is a closed experience, a walled garden, nothing will cross those walls. But humans need this persistence. Again, this persistence will allow humans to have experiences, histories, identity, and they will need the supports for this persistence, like payment systems and data security, to be reliable, accessible, and portable across those worlds. That is a huge issue for the future of the metaverse. If these two elements, presence and persistence, come to exist in this network of virtual worlds, humans will flourish there. Humans will thrive in the metaverse. Presence, as we've already heard, will allow students to feel themselves to be actually with their peers, no matter what the distance is between them, to be fully immersed in the highest quality education available. All the dreams we have for online access to education can become true in the metaverse. It's the same with medical care. To feel the presence of a caring medical professional, to be actually in their presence, will make an enormous difference to those seeking care. And obviously, for those whose jobs involve the creation of knowledge or entertainment or living a creative life, presence and persistence in the metaverse will make new forms of those jobs and new kinds of services possible. It really is an exciting prospect. The metaverse has begun with games, with dancing, as the minister showed us. That's just the way the early internet began as well, with very primitive games. But it will broaden out in unimaginable ways. We are just at the very beginning of these possibilities for health, education, and new forms of making a living. Most fundamentally, with the presence and persistence of the metaverse, living in important ways online will become even more normalized than it is now. I predict that many more elements of the physical world will have digital layers very soon, and that we won't be looking down at our phones to see them. It cannot be that the smartphone remains our window on this future world. But to get to this vision of presence and persistence and human flourishing, you, and most importantly, all of your governments, will have to take a very, very, very long view. Here are 3 things to keep in mind on the slide in connection with this long view. Just as the Korean market is relatively small compared to the rest of the world, just 60 million people, so too is the current population of the globe, far smaller than the future population. Right now, there are about 8 billion people in the world. Well, humans could be living on Earth for another 500 million years. That's a lot of people. Those are future people who will be capable of happiness and whose happiness we could improve by the decisions we make now. We have a moral obligation to do so, in fact. I agree with the minister that the South Korean government can lead. I want to urge that government to take seriously its obligation to these future people of all nations, and not just its relationships with its current company partners, either domestic or foreign. Let me explain. In America and in most other developed nations, the metaverse will take a long time to take off because our network connectivity will get in the way. We simply have not made the investments in fiber optic lines and advanced wireless that Korea has. In Korea, your networks will not get in the way. Connectivity is already inexpensive, ubiquitous, low latency, high bandwidth, all the things we need for human presence. But your challenge is the greatest one on Earth. You need to lead the world in requiring the equivalence of the internet protocol for the metaverse. The internet protocol is miraculously simple as well as freely available to anyone. It allows any computer to speak internet. That's what made the commercial internet take off. The equivalence of these very simple protocols for the metaverse will require easy interoperability among virtual platforms, easy portability of identity and payments. Creating these standards will be a titanic battle, an enormous challenge. But for the sake of all the future generations of people whose lives we can make better within the metaverse, you have to make sure that no one layer of the metaverse can dominate or keep others from arising. If this is a closed, optimized, monetized venture, a product of 140 companies, each of which gets their own special territory, it will never achieve its promise for humanity. It must be explorable. You must not permit lock-in at any level. You must require non-discrimination. This is actually a moral obligation. You probably know that the internet protocol, the idea of easy interoperability, did not happen by magic. It did not arise from the private marketplace. It took enormous government intervention. It took enormous effort around the world to spread the protocol as an idea. It took a lot of persuasion and investment. Now we're at the beginning of the metaverse, and the hard work of ensuring no one and no group of companies captures all its value has to happen right now. The path of the metaverse and the possible improvement of the lives of untold billions of people is in your hands. All of them will want presence and persistence. They deserve the best possible answer from you, the South Korean government, Minister Park, leading your colleagues. They require an explorable set of ever-expanding options. They deserve a metaverse that does not permit lock-in at any level. So, good luck. Here's a quote you may find useful as you proceed into this enterprise. Don't panic, think carefully, write clearly, act in good faith. Repeat. Thank you again for having me. It is indeed an honor to talk to you.
So I will try to speed up as much as I can. So in the session 1, I looked at the other panelists and I wondered about what they'll be talking about. So I think the people from the business will be talking about the business services, and the scholars will think about how the humanity will evolve with the metaverse. So that was my expectation. And now, as an expert in the content industry, I will talk about convergence. So I think Metaverse has enabled us to have a vision, and at this very moment, it's still evolving. And many people find Metaverse a little bit difficult, and even the experts, even though they are facing the same direction in terms of the speed of evolutions, and they have different perspective. So the governments and the institutions and the business may be confused as a result. And as COVID-19 pandemic is coming to almost an end, people going outdoors, and there's a competition over time. And because the metaverse itself is also an IT service, the major players and global players that are using this service are reducing. So I think the center of the early adopter and the innovator, and the social community and the game. At the center, we need to think about how to scale up. And I would like to talk about this from the convergence point of view. A lot of topic has been discussed already, especially the evolution of humans' life. As you know, the metaverse has expanded the time and space of people and will continue to evolve the human life. However, we still have a long way to go. The CEO of the Comtiverse said that the service is fragmented, and the picture that he has in mind is slightly different from what it is in reality. Is it because of the COVID-19 pandemic? There is a massive capital power and technology, and the player with a lot of capital power, their monthly average user was about 200,000, and the users are still complaining about the limitation in the features, and they don't know the purpose of having to visit again. So they might have visited one time, but they don't really feel the need to visit again. And lastly, the immersive 3D contents, now that they have looked at it many times, they have started to lose interest in this content. So at this point in time, we need to scale up. Everlodger's technology acceptance cycle, I have slightly changed it to a contents acceptance cycle. So at this metaverse users that are locked in between the early innovation and early adopters, I think we need to expand these users to early majority. And in order to make this possible, we need one killer. Metaverse can play a various social roles. That is expectation, and it, I think, need to be fulfilled by the metaverse. And other than social community and education, it will be used in medical and training and education. So metaverse has a lot of mission to take. And in terms of movement, it is expected to have couple trillions of economic value. And in the entertainment sector, the game has been around for a very long time. So it has settled itself as a very typical content, and a lot of more hyper reality content is being required. I think that we need some plus alpha. So on top of this immersive content, we need some fun element to be added. And this is the typical pleasure that we experience in our everyday life. In one community in Australia, I read this article, and let's read it together. The content that is fun in reality is also attractive in the metaverse. And I think it's written by a fandom in Australia. Then let's look at the metaverse contents using the existing standard. This is well known. In Roblox, there was a global viral in the Squid Game. So this is a recreation video clip of the Squid Game.
GB였습니다. 뭐야? 근데 제가 좀
오케이.
So it's very interesting. It's so fun. It's so cute. But in terms of feature, it doesn't look natural. And compared to the original version, it will be less interesting. So it's not just recreating IP, but we need the original contents for Metaverse. Then let's look at the original contents of Metaverse. So it was covered during the Q&A session. The Star QSC, Iho, the creator, made this Metaverse drama. So this was ranking #1 drama in Geppetto, and there was a big viral effect in YouTube. And I also enjoy this story, and I watch all the series. But as I've said before, there are some things that are not natural in terms of feature. And in this content acceptance cycle, there's still limitation for it to move up to the majority level. I would like to ask your understanding, creator Iho, for such remark. So other than the combination, we need to have a strong solidarity with the studio as well. And I think this is a tentative recipe to scale up. This is a very popular super IP, the Despicable Me. So season 4 will be released globally in 2024. So let's imagine. So for example, among one of the big players that's related to Metaverse invest in this season 5 or strategically make an alliance and then release it exclusively, then the series will be much more effective in terms of effect than the movie, right? So it will only be watched exclusively here, and those of the people who watch this series will be able to create this Gru's lab as seen in the movie. And a couple trillions worth original minion characters will be created as avatar in Metaverse, and this can be linked with monetization. So new digital feature to realize humanity is approaching, but this is actually my favorite video in the Metaverse. So the Saturn, instead of YouTube to learn about the Venus and Saturn, you can look at it to the YouTube and then watch it together with the Space Explorer, and ask any questions if you have any. And this will open up new world for the physically disabled. And this is the meta tune. So things that was unimaginable in the past. The remarkable medical solution is being prepared at the moment, and this will come into reality in the near future. Nevertheless, there is the early acceptance of majority. And in order to reduce the hurdles, we need to have a tipping point, and this tipping point is about adding the legacy and then attempting the convergence in very high speed. And we need to cut the value chain in the middle to fill in the discrepancies. So I think in that sense, it can be described as discrepancy. So this is end of my presentation. I don't belong to a certain company, so I was I freely delivered my presentation and talked about how we can approach Metaverse more closely and quickly. Thank you very much.
Good morning. Good morning, everybody. I would like to begin first by thanking the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and the entire staff for inviting us here today to meet with you. My name is Todd Holoubek. I'm a professor of media art at the Graduate School of Communications and Art at Yonsei University. This talk is The Evolving Metaverse, a Natural Progression. And in this talk, I'm going to tell the story of how we discovered something we probably should have already known. A little quick background on where I've come from. I actually began in television. I have a BFA in theater where I was writing and acting for MTV for about 10 years. After television, I went back to graduate school at the Interactive Telecommunications Program, New York City. And that's where I started to study media art, humans and technology. It's at this time that I began a research position at ITP and also taught classes. All the while, I had begun my media art practice. I'd like to begin by agreeing on a few things. The first is about technology being about people. The second being that technology allows us to reach everybody instantly. It's at this point I think this is a given, right? The metaverse is a technology that's about all of us communicating very quickly. Humans seek each other out. We gather into groups and we develop interactions that are unique to those collections of people. The takeaway from this is that people require people. Today's technology satisfies that desire. The strongest way for us to connect is through story, through the exchange of ideas and opinions. This is what we refer to as cultural exchange. And this is where our work at Yonsei began. We wanted to understand how do people connect and communicate in a digital space. Is this exchange worth our time? And lastly, we asked ourselves, how can digital space provide a valid cultural exchange? Well, to answer that question, we went out and just made our own metaverse space from scratch. Using the Unity game engine, custom software, we ran 2 experiments. The first was through curating digital artworks from artists, placing them in a public space. And here's what we found. The artists immediately desired to create in their own autonomous space, yet still be part of the exhibition. The exhibition itself did not encourage an exchange between visitors and artists or visitors and visitors. And there was very small cultural impact. It was almost more spectacle than anything. So we ran a second experiment, and this is where each artist had their own space. We focused on this as metaverse as art, metaverse space itself as an artwork. And here's what we found. Each artist's voice became far more grounded. Each artist developed their own ideology surrounding their work, and within each world, the valid cultural experience was active and alive. The visitors communicated with each other, they played, they exchanged ideas, they experimented within and with the space together. So we had our connection. This is where we come to the title, The Evolving Metaverse, a Natural Progression. There's room for far greater diversity in the metaverse. We're looking beyond digital real estate and NFT galleries. We're looking at a system for connection that is actually very familiar to all of us. We're moving from the image of there being just one metaverse that everybody goes to and hangs out there. I'm talking about microverses. If we go back in time, back to the 90s when PCs really became mainstream, we used what were called bulletin board systems. And these were actually just text-based microverses of people connecting. Same interactivity, different technology. Then in the 2000s, 2001, which was pretty much the peak era for America Online, or AOL, they were offering preset rooms and ideologies and subjects for people to gather in. Currently, we're looking at user-generated content platforms that cater to and encourage diverse ideas and opinions. And here we have Facebook, Reddit, and most recently, Clubhouse. It's in our nature to gather in groups of other individuals who share or don't share our views. As all large things are made up of smaller things, microverses are the next natural step. Each will cultivate its own ideology and culture. The content can concern itself with everything from global events to personal interests to extreme brand loyalty. For example, over here we'll have global politics microverse, and over there we can have the world history microverse, and maybe up over there we have like the famous coffee brand fan microverse. As technology continues to advance, our interactions will only grow stronger and more involved. We have to connect, and we must use technology. We can't escape our nature, and we'll be using technology to facilitate this. What's happened before will happen again. It's just going to get a lot cooler. So keep your hands and feet in the car. I think this is going to be a really wild ride. Thank you very much. I am Todd Holoubek.